Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Narayanam Suragurum Jagadekanatham Bhakta Priyam Sakalalokanamaskritam cha Traigunyavarjitamajam Vibhumadhyamisham Vande Bhavagnamamara Siddhavandyam Narayanaaya Paripurnagunarnavaya Vishwodaya Sthitilayo Niyatipradaya Jnanapradaya Vibudha Surasaukhya Dukha Satkaranaya Vitataya Namo Namaste Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirai Devam Narayanam Natva Sarvadosha Vivarjitam Paripurnam Kuruncha Geetartham Vakshyami Leshatah Harihi Om. Good morning, everyone. This is the weekly Bhagavad-Gita Pratipadartha room that we conduct every Saturday, but we had a break for a month or so. We had roughly a month long break. And a month ago, we stopped at the 8th shloka of the 11th chapter. 11th chapter begins with a question from Arjuna. He is not enough. So there is quite a bit of progress that we have seen in terms of sure. So we will. There is good amount of progress that we have seen so far in the 10 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. The transformation in Arjuna were brilliant, right? In the first chapter, he starts off very positively. Pravritte Shastra Sampate Dhanurudyamya Pandava, right? I mean, in the marching of the enemies, the armies, he was leading from the front by holding his dhanus and then and then he tells Krishna to go forward, right? That's the kind of an Arjuna that we saw at the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita. And suddenly in the first chapter, in the middle of first chapter, he gets into attachments, right? Drishtvaimam swajanam Krishna yujutsum samupasthitam. That's where the Vishada starts, right? He starts too much of attachment. And after that, series of questions from Arjuna till the 6th chapter has been, tell me Krishna what is Shreyas, tell me Krishna what is Shreyas, yat Shreyas yat nishchitam bruhi tanme. You know, every time. So there is a question in the second chapter, he asks, tell me what is Shreyas. In the third chapter, he says, Vyamishrena vakyena buddhi mohayasi evame tadekam vada nischitya yena Shreya aham apnuyam. He is constantly worried about what is Shreyas, what is Shreyas, what is Shreyas. Again, finally, he asks a very similar question in the 5th chapter. Sanyasam karmanam Krishna, punaryogam cha shamshashi yat Shreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sunishchitam bruhi. What is Shreyaskara between this and that? Tell me that, without any element of doubt. Tell me what is Shreyas, tell me what is Shreyas. Suddenly, when we come to the 6th chapter, right? I mean, his question starts, they evolve into a little higher plane. In the 6th chapter, Arjuna's questions were, if I don't achieve this yoga siddhi, oh Krishna, I will also lose the karma siddhi, I will also lose the yoga siddhi. Where will I go? Right? That's the kind of a confusion that Krishna is posed with, Krishna is asked with, right? And then Krishna gives very beautiful. I mean, we saw the 6th chapter, the beginning of the 7th chapter, and it's all one single continuation. But towards the 7th chapter, end of the 7th chapter, that is where we are looking at the face of the 8th chapter, right? Now, there Krishna's challenge or the questions to Krishna from Arjuna are at a different level altogether. The end of the 7th chapter or the beginning of the 8th chapter, what we hear is Kim Tat Brahma, Kim Adhyatma, Kim Karma. Tell me this big picture. Because yoginam api sarvesha madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam. So Krishna gave a very big picture, like prapya, punya kritam lokam ushitva shashvati. He gave a very big picture. No problem in losing the karma siddhi, yoga siddhi is always yours, right? He keeps on giving that assurances by showing him the big picture. Now, suddenly the big picture has been beautifully depicted, but still Arjuna has these questions. Kim tat Brahma? What is that Brahma? Kim Adhyatma? What is this Adhyatma? Kim Karma? So we see the Akshara Brahma Yoga completely in terms of making Arjuna realized, how should we do the anusandhana, anusmarana, artha chintana of that Bhagavat Tattva, the big picture, the Brahma, the Karma, the Adhyatma. Kavim Puranam, Anushasitaram, Anoraniyam, Samanusmared. The way we have to do the Anusmarana of the Bhagavan was beautifully explained, right? But then that was also not enough. In fact, that upadesha, that message from Krishna, lasted from 8th chapter till the 9th chapter, to the point of concluding that, manmana bhava, madbhakta bhava, madhyaji bhava, mam namaskuru, mameva eshyasi, yuktva, evam yuktva, matparayanaha, very beautiful message, like, anusmarana, how you should think about the big picture, was very beautifully put down. Not only how exactly you would do that, right? The what and the how, both were very beautifully covered in that. And then the 10th chapter, there Arjuna gets a little more interest. Okay, now explain to me, where exactly do I see this? Keshu cha bhaveshu chintya asi. How I should, in what all different bhava should I do that anusmarana of this Bhagavat Tattva? That also we saw. The complete vibhuti rupa was that. And he gave it as an example, right? Eshaha to uddeshatah proktah. All the 10th chapter was uddeshatah, was given with a very, very specific intention to Arjuna. Right? I mean, this is obvious because when we see a similar vibhuti rupa darshana from Krishna to Uddhava, there is something called the Bhagavad-Gita, right? Which comes in the Srimad Bhagavat Mahapurana. There are quite a few differences, between what Krishna told Arjuna to what Krishna tells Uddhava. There is huge amount of differences. I mean, some of the quick ones could be that, Rudranam Shankaraha, he is what he is told Arjuna, that he is Shankara among the Rudras. But to Uddhava, he says Rudranam Nila Lohita. I am Nila Lohita among the Rudras. The small difference, right? Shankara is different to Nila Lohita, right? The prakara, the akara, the rupa, the avatara, everything is very, very different, right? And both of them, neither of them, Shankara nor Leela Lohita, appear among the Ekadasha Rudras. They are not among the Ekadasha Rudras, right? Then he says, Jigi Shatam, Niti Rasmi Jigi Shatam, he says to Arjuna. To Uddhava, he says, Mantrosmi Vijigi Shatam, like, he's mantra for the Jigisha, like, for Jetu Michuhu, the one who desires to win. For Uddhava, it is mantra, is your path for victory. For Arjuna, it is niti, this is your path for victory. Right? So there is bespoke messaging given, uddeshatah proktaha, but nonetheless, one thing that comes very, very consistent both to Arjuna and to Uddhava is that there is no end to the Vibhuti Rupa. In the amount of different ways, in the amount of different forms through which we can do the Artha Chintana of the Bhagavan, there is no end. We can see Bhagavan in everything. That's what the Avadhuta Gita also is, right? Don't miss me. I mean, that the reason why Krishna gives that Avadhuta Gita Upadesha to Uddhava is that, you don't have to necessarily miss me physically. You will see me in everything. Like, you will see me in Prithvi, you will see me in Vayu, you will see me in Agni, you will see me in Chandrama, Surya, Pingala, Kapota, Ajagara, in everything you will see me. That's exactly what Uddhava was told. And here he says, there is no end, na antaha asti he Arjuna, mama vibhutinam, rupanam. There is no end to my divinity. You can look at me in everything, literally, practically everything you can do my Artha Chintana. That was also not enough. That is where we see the 11th chapter. Now, Arjuna's request has been, show me. Manyase yadi tachakyam maya drashtum. If you think it is possible for me to see, please show me. Then we saw what Krishna spoke, right? The last 4 shlokas that we saw, basically Krishna giving, okay, now look at my Divya Rupa. Pashyame Partha Rupani Shatashaha Atha Sahasrashaha. Like, the hundreds and thousands of different forms of my Rupa. Have a look at it. Nana, Varna Kritini, Nana Vidhani Divyani, look at them. Pashya Adityan, Vasun, Rudran, Ashvino, Marutaha, all the 33 crore Devaganas and the Marudganas and the Bahuni, Adrishta Purvani, all the things that were never seen before. Pashya Ascharyani He Bharata. Look at these mesmerizing forms. So Krishna goes obliges to Arjuna's request, because Arjuna is now progressing, right, to knowing what it is, to giving examples to where exactly should I think about you, to now, okay, show me that directly. That is where we come to the Vishwarupa. And Krishna also says, Iha ekastam jagat krishnam pashya adya sacharacharam, along with the chara and the achara. And the chara jagat itself is achara, and the achara jagat itself is chara. Like, the constantly changing world is achara for the Bhagavan. It's absolutely ekastam sthitam. Like, ekastam sthitam kritsnam jagat pashya adya, which is sachara achara. In my mama dehe, he says, like, yacha anyuddrishtam ichchasi, and whatever else also you want to see, I will show you that, right? But he puts a caveat. Natumam shakshise drashtum anena eva swachakshusha. From your own physical eyes, you will not be able to see. Therefore, Divyam dadami te chakshuhu. That's the last we saw, right? I will grant you the Divya Chakshu, which is basically Antar Chakshu. Divya Chakshu need not be a physical instrument. It is the Antarjnana for a pure, Yatanto yoginas chainam pashyantyatmanyavasthitam yatantaha api akritatmanaha. When there is impurity within, we will not be able to see much. They say there is a great saying, right? People with jaundice tend to see the whole world as yellow. So it's not the world that is yellow, right? It's the internal colorization. We have to overcome that internal color. So perhaps what Krishna is also doing to Arjuna is that he is removing that internal colorizations within Arjuna. So that's the Divya Drishti, Divya Chakshu. Pashyame Yoga Maishwaram. Right? That's where we are. With that, we come to shloka number 9. I have pinned the web link under the room title. This is a useful website that we keep for our sake. And this is just that, a couple of us, myself and Sudhaji, we might be taking the lead in terms of facilitating the reading of the meaning. But if you have any other points to share, please to come up. As a community, we can help each other in understanding the real depth of the Bhagavad-Gita. So with that, we come to shloka number 9. I'll quickly read how it sounds. Sanjaya Uvacha Evamuktvā tato rajan Mahayogeshvaro harihi Darshayamasa parthaya Paramam rupamaishwaram. Sanjaya Uvacha Evamuktvā tatah rajan Mahayogeshvaro harihi Darshayamasa parthaya Paramam rupamaishwaram. Now, this website is beautiful because if you scroll down a little bit, you will see a section called Padacheda. Right? Padacheda is basically where we see the words that are broken down into individual words. Sometimes we see the compounding of the words, right? Evam uktva tataha rajan maha yoga ishvaraha harihi darshayamasa parthaya paramam rupam aishwaram. So these are the different words in the shloka. Now, usually in the Samskrita shlokas, the words are jumbled up, right? Because in Samskrita, they don't make any difference. The subject, the object, the predicate, in whichever order you put them in, they will normally don't have any bearing in terms of the meaning. Meaning will remain the same because that's how the language is structured, right? But for us in the Prakrita way, for us to make sense of this, the Anvaya is basically the prose ordering. These unjumbled words, we will put them in a proper order so that it will sound like a proper sentence. So Anvaya, the section just above the Padacheda, gives us that prose order. So that reads like this: Anvaya, Sanjaya Uvacha, He Rajan, Mahayogeshwaro Harihi Evam Uktva Tataha Parthaya Paramam Aishwaram Rupam Darshayamasa. So now we are hearing Sanjaya Uvacha. After the last we heard from Sanjaya was in the second chapter, where he says, Uktva Tushni Bhabuvaha Tamuvacha Krishikeshaha Prahasanniva Bharata Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Vishidantamidam Shidantamidam Vachaha. So he's telling this crybaby Arjuna. So the last we heard from Arjuna, from Sanjaya, Arjuna was described as a crybaby, Vishidantam. Right? That's how Arjuna was called back in the second chapter. Now he is coming back. Basically, he is addressing Dhritarashtra. Hey Rajan. Right? So he is addressing Dhritarashtra. Hey Rajan, Mahayogeshwaraha Harihi evam uktva tataha parthaya paramam aishwaram rupam darshayamasa. That's the prose order of this shloka. What does that mean? For that, we click on dictionary. There is a link called dictionary on the top. Hey Rajan, O king, Mahayogeshwaraha Harihi, that Hari, the Lord Krishna, who is the master of the great yoga, evam uktva, having thus spoken, tataha, then thereafter, parthaya, to partha, paramam aishwaram rupam darshayamasa. He showed him his supreme aishwarya bharita rupa, his supreme form. That's basically what the shloka says. But again, see Sanjaya being Sanjaya, very very balanced, right? He has no bias in whatever he says, right? Whether the king, for whatever deficiencies the king possesses, he is very very sincere in his duty, right? So now, what is this Aishwarya Rupa? No, Mahayoga Ishwara, Mahayoga Ishwara, Mahayogeshwara. There are different bhashyas, right? Shankara bhashya, Mahaccha Asau, Yoga, Mahayoga. Okay, Mahayoga is basically the Mahan Yoga. Mahanscha Asau Yoga. Okay, Mahayoga. Tasya Ishwaraha Mahayogeshwaraha. Harihi Narayana. So that's the way we see the Shankara bhashya describing. Yoga itself is upaya. Yoga has multiple connotations, right? When we look into the Amara Kosha, yoga can mean sannahata. Sannahana is basically the together, being sitting together with the Bhagavan. That is one definition of yoga, right? Yoga can be upaya. That's what the Amara Kosha defines, right? Upaya. Like when we say, there are people, right? I can ask Sudhaji lives in Bangalore. Her hometown is Hubli, right? I ask her, today is some festival. I ask Sudhaji, right? Sudhaji, did you have your lunch? Ah, what, Bharataji? In the hostel, they don't serve me any lunch. You are having the lunch. You have the yoga. Yoga can be that, can be a way out of finding yourself a good thing. Yoga can be a blessing also. Sometimes we call the blessing. See, even in our colloquial usage, we use this word yoga in different terms, right? So, sannahana, staying close to the Bhagavan is a yoga. Upaya, finding a way out to achieve something. Like, for example, for our basic survival, subsistence, we have to earn the livelihood. For that, we call it udyoga. Udyoga is basically the way of finding your livelihood, right? So, yoga can be upaya. It can be dhyana also. Bhagavad Chintana itself is dhyana. Like, for example, we use the word prayoga, right? Prakrishta yoga. Like, it's a prayoga. Prayoga is basically experimentation, right? But there you need to have the focus. In experimentation cannot happen without the proper dhyana. So that is where yoga then becomes dhyana, right? Yoga is yukti also. Yukti is also buddhi shakti, yukti, the right thing to be done. Like, for example, see, there is a word called upayoga. Now, upayoga, I keep quoting this example. We all have a smartphone in our hand. The way I use the smartphone is so archaic compared to how Sudhaji uses the smartphone. She can do multitasking like crazy. I can't even imagine me being able to. So the upayoga, the utility of any device is also not with the device alone. The user has to find that out, right? The yukti, the proper, alignment with the device and finding the upaya out, So yoga, little loaded word. This is Mahayogeshwara. He gives us the upaya. He helps us in the yukti. He helps us in the sannahana. He helps us in the dhyana. He is all pervading. So Mahanscha aso Yogeshwarahascha Mahayogeshwaraha. He is none other than Harihi Narayana. But what is Harihi? Harihi, Harati, iti Harihi. Now, every word is very important. Hari is Sriman Narayana, Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Of course it is. But Hari is also coming from the root called Harati. Now, Idopuhutam Geheshu. havirbhagam kritashvaham varno me haritah shrestah tasya dhaririti smritaha. So Krishna gives this definition little later, I think in the Ashwamedhika Parva. No, he, in all the bhoga, in all the yajna, in all the huta, in all the havihi, like, in all the activities that are happening, the parama haritaha, the one who is ultimately consuming it all, is that Hari, the one who takes away the flavor of all the activities that we do. That is him, right? Now, this is very important from the context. Both Mahayogeshwaraha and Harihi is very, very important, because in the 10th chapter we just saw that, Yadyad Vibhuti Matsattvam Srimat Urjitamevava. So the Vibhuti Rupa, the way we have to count the various Vibhuti Amshas, right? The Vibhuti Amshas are endless. Na antaha asti. In fact, to Uddhava, Bhagavan says very different. Hey Uddhava, I can count the number of anus, the atoms in this creation, but I will not be able to recount all my Vibhuti Rupas. They are so countless. The Vibhuti Rupas are so countless of the Bhagavan, right? Mainly because in everything that is happening around, he is the one who is constantly enjoying it all. And in that enjoyment, we see the Vaibhava, right? So here also in the Vishwarupa Darshana also, when he is about to show him, the way Sanjaya is explaining, the one who is the Maha Yogeshwara, no, the one who has the power to grant that yoga, the Sannahana, the Upaya, the Dhyana, the Yukti, all of these things, right? That's the loaded meaning of the word yoga. He is the Hari. He is the one who takes away everything, enjoys everything, and also grants us that blessing by taking away. So taking away also means that, taking away our papa. That's why he is also called Hari. Hari Hara, the words are stemming from the same root. Both Hari and the word Hara, Harati, Hari, Harati, Hara. They both are the ones who snatch everything away, right? Evam Uktva, this Mahayogeshwara Hari, this Hari who is the bhoktru of all this yajna, tapas, cheshta, all the activities of the universe, who is also the Mahayogeshwara, who is the one who gives us that yoga, yogyata. Evam uktva, having thus spoken what? The last four shlokas. No, pashyame partharupani shatashota sahasrashaha. Right? From that point onwards till the Natumam Shakyase Drashtu Manenaiva Svachakshisha Divyam Dadami Te Chakshuhu. I will grant you the divine Chakshu through which you will be able to see me. Evam Uktva, having thus spoken this Mahayogeshwara Hari, Tataha, thereafter, Parthaya Darshayamasa, he showed to Partha. Partha is also very beautiful, right? Partha is the point of connection of the blood relation for Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna is Pritha's son. Pritha is Krishna's maternal aunt. So that's where the bloodline comes. So there's a very endearing kind of a sambodhana. He's referring to Arjuna as Partha. He's basically pledging his own bloodline to through that line, right? Partha, hey, Yogeshwaraha Harihi. Harihi, the one who Harati, okay, all the yajna tapas, the outcome of all. And also the Mahayogeshwara, the one who grants us that yoga, the Sannahana yoga, the Upaya yoga, the Yukti yoga, the Dhyana yoga, all of these various different loaded ways in which the word yoga can be understood. The one who grants us all of that, right? Evam uktva, evam as in thus spoken. What is thus? Those last four shlokas, like, pashyame partha rupani, I will show you partha, look at my, but I will grant you the divya chakshu, right? Divyam dadami te chakshuhu, right? So that's, and paramam aishwaram rupam darshayamasa parthaya. The Partha is also Pritha's son, right? Pritha's son is the bloodline connection between Arjuna and Krishna. So whenever Krishna calls Arjuna Partha, it's a very endearing kind of a sambodhana. You're connected by blood. We are through Pritha, through Kunti, right? And he says, Paramam Aishwaram Rupam Darshayamasa. He showed the Parama Aishwara, Aishvara is Ishwaras. Ishwarat Aishwarya. Right? It's a connected. Ishwarasya apatyam. The one that flows from Ishvara is Aishwarya. That's why opulence is Ishwaras. Right? Opulence is called Aishwarya. So this Vishwarupa Darshana, so far we are not calling it Vishwarupa, we are calling it Aishwarya Rupa. Even Arjuna call it, Pashyame Yogam Aishwaram, is Krishna says. Sanjay also says, Paramam Aishwaram Rupam Darshayamasa. And Arjuna was also calling it as Aishwarya Rupa. No, nobody has called it Vishwarupa so far. But nonetheless, this is going to be a Vishwarupa only. We will see that later. Right? But nonetheless, all we're going to see is the opulent rupas of the Bhagavan. Right? Darshayamasa, he showed. Right? Let's quickly see what Aurobindo translation says for this. The Aurobindo translation says, Sanjaya said, having thus spoken, O king, O Dhritarashtra, the master of yoga, Sri Hari, which is Lord Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, showed Partha, Arjuna, his supreme form, Rupam Aishwaryam. Right? Shubhadhyana Dikshit, do you have any questions at this point or any thought to share?
No, I'm just listening, brother.
Okay, Dhanyavada. Hari. So with that, we move on to the next shloka. We can click next on the right top of the page. We go to the next shloka. Hari Om. Om. Anekavaktranayanam, anekadbhutadarshanam, anekadivyabharanam, divyanekodhyatayudham. The Padacheda says, Aneka Vaktra Nayanam, Aneka Adbhuta Darshanam, Aneka Divya Abharanam, Divya Aneka Udyata Ayudham. Right? Aneka Vaktra Nayanam, Aneka Adbhuta, Aneka Adbhuta. So these are some of the compounding sandhis we call it. Divya Abharanam, Divya Bharanam, Divya Aneka, Divyaneka, Aneka Udyata, Anekodyuta. Right? So these are some of the sandhis that we see. But nonetheless, when we put them into Anvaya, the prose order, when we unjumble them, Aneka Vaktra Nayanam Darshayamasa, because that's the word, right? The last shloka, Darshayamasa. Aneka Vaktra Nayanam Darshayamasa. Aneka Adbhuta Darshanam Darshayamasa. Aneka Divya Bharanam Darshayamasa. Divya Aneka Udyata Ayudham Darshayamasa. We have to imply, because that's the verb from the previous shloka. What does that mean? We click on the dictionary. Aneka Vaktra Nayanam, innumerable mouths and eyes, Darshayamasa, he showed. Who? The Mahayogeshwaraha Hari. To whom? Parthaya, to Partha. So Parthaya, Mahayogeshwaraha Harihi, Aneka Vaktra Nayanam Darshayamasa. Aneka Adbhuta Darshanam Darshayamasa. Many wonderful visions he showed. Aneka Divyabharanam Darshayamasa. Many divine ornaments he showed. Divya Aneka Udyata Ayudham Darshayamasa. He showed an armed for battle with numberless, innumerous, divine uplifted weapons. Now look at this, right? Vaktra Nayanam. Vaktra is face or the mouth, and Nayanam is the eyes. Basically, Vaktra is also the field of the Yajna. Bhagavan's mouth, you know, he mentioned that in the fourth chapter. He says, evam bahuvidha yajna vitata brahmano mukhe. He says that, all these various activities are being played out in the mouth of the Bhagavan, in the face of the Bhagavan. The mouth, the mukha, can be vaktra, can be sometimes the face, can be the mouth also. Like, for example, when Arjuna says, mukham cha parishushyati, it's not the face is getting dried up, it's the mouth that gets dried up, right? Or rather, when the face is getting dried up is the expression. Literally, it has to mean that, the mouth is getting dried up, because only the mouth can get dried up physically when we see, right? And the mouth, his mouth is the play field of all the activities that are happening in this universe. The entire Vishwas Cheshta is happening in his Vaktra. And Nayana Chakshu is the Upalakshana for the sense organs. He is the Sahasrakshaha. Sahasrakshaha is not just thousand eyes. When we look into the Shayanacharya, Bhashya on the Rigveda, that Sahasraksha is 1,000 sense organs. When Indra is called Sahasrakshi, it's 1,000 sense organs, not necessarily 1,000 eyes. Because Akshi, Nayana is the Upalakshana for the Indriya. Right? So the place, Aneka Vaktra, the many mouth, the many yajna field that he is, and also the Aneka Nayana that he is, which is the sense organs. So he is letting them all play, he's letting them all get grasped by him, he's also grasping them all. He is the sense organ, right? He is the the Kamala Patraksha is what we saw earlier, Arjuna calling him as Kamala Patra, Kamala Patra Aksha. Kamala Patra is basically wide and multi, like Kamala Patra is thousands of patra, and also it's very very wide, right? And Aksha, the sense organ, right? So he is the Aneka. And see, we will see a lot of expressions called Bahu, Aneka, Ananta throughout this chapter. One thing we need to understand is they are all the same. Aneka is basically countless. When we are unable to count, is when we say Aneka. Because Bhagavan, at the end of the day, there is no Upama to describe him. He is Anupama. Just because, like, for example, in the Ramayana, yesterday we were doing some reading of Ramayana. At one point, while describing the Tataka Vada episode, around the story of Tataka, um, this guy, Paka Shasana, Rama was described as Indra. Paka Shasana is Indra, right? Rama was described as somebody like Indra. It is because of a lack of a close adjective, because there is no adjective that can describe the Bhagavan. He is Anupama. So whenever we see all of these things, Aneka, Bahu, Ananta, they are basically countless, because these are beyond expressions. I can't really say how many. So the countless fields of activity, which is the Vaktra, the face, the mouth, the countless perceptions that he is doing, perceivings that he is doing, the Nayana, the sense organs, Aneka Adbhuta Darshanam, and in all these grasping and the play out, there is a Adbhuta Darshana, there is Vaibhava, Aneka, again countless, because that's what he said, no, in the previous chapter, Na Antaha Asti Mama Divyana Vibhutina, that Vibhuti Adbhuta Vaibhava Darshana, he's showing him. Aneka Divya Abharana, like Divya is Divi, the divine Abharana. We normally, this again, right? We normally call him the Kiriti, like, with the crown. Crown is basically Upalakshana, for our own mortal way of depicting the beauty of the Bhagavan. We try to put one nice Kirita on his head. But he is basically doing the dharana of multiple other Divya Abharana, right? He is basically doing the dharana of all possible Divya Abharana. Aneka Divya Abharanam Darshayamasa, the ones that he is wearing. Because at the end of the day, through all the activities that are happening, through all the feelings that are coming out of it, through all the perception of all those feelings, these are basically the ornamentation for the Bhagavan. He is doing the dharana. This is something that we heard in the 15th chapter. Dharayamyaha mojasa, Kama Vishyacha Bhutani, Dharayamyaha. I will wear all of these things upon me, is what he says, like in the 15th chapter. Comes a little later, but fortunately we started from the 15th chapter because that's the inspiration for our journey of Bhagavad-Gita, Purushottama Yoga. The 15th chapter is called the Purushottama Yoga. So through the activities, through the various expressions that are coming out, the various divine ornamentations that are coming out, he is wearing them and he's showing them. Aneka Divya Abharanam Darshayamasa, and Divya Aneka Udyata Ayudham. Ayudham can be weapons. Ayudhams are basically instruments. Like, for example, we have this practice called the Ayudha Puja. During the Navaratri, one of the days is the Ayudha Puja, Saraswati Puja, one day Ayudha Puja. We worship the three rupas of the Devi, right? Nine rupas, but basically stemming from the three gunas, right? Bhu, Shri, Durga. These are the three main. And Ayudha is something always with Durga. But what we do during the Ayudha Puja, not necessary that, we have to keep only the Khadga, the dagger, the gun. These are not the only Ayudhas, the cannon. These are not the only, cannon guns. These are not the only Ayudha. For an intellectual kind of a person, for a person who is into jnanam, vijnanam, astikyam kind of a swabhava nirata karma, For him, the Ayudha is the pen. Pen is mightier than the sword, is something that we keep hearing. So we keep the pen and then worship the pen. For a person who is a driver, for him, the Ayudha is his steering wheel, his car. He has to worship the car. Like, his yana, his car, he worships. So on the day of the Ayudha Puja, when we look at the society, which is what happens currently, right? We worship the vehicles, we worship the instruments, all instruments we have. People who are industrialists, they worship all their machinery, the lathe, the drilling machines, the pumps, the bore wells, whatever is the instrument, the engineering instrument, they worship that. Now, this is beautiful, right? These are the different udyata. Udyata is the uplifted. Ut. Whenever we hear the word ut, is basically up. Many divine, uplifted instruments, weaponry, ayudham. Basically, for all the cheshta that we do, aneka vaktra, yajna cheshta is happening in the vaktra, right? In the mukha. For all the perceivings that are happening, aneka, vibhuti, adbhuta, divya darshanas that are happening, aneka abharanas that are coming out. Through them, we are also seeing a lot more ayudha coming out, which will then add to this cycle of creation. Like through these ayudhas, we are furthering the activity called the prakriti. Like this nature, see, at the end of the day, all of this is part of prakriti. Prakriti is basically a creation of the Bhagavan, right? Prakriti. It's a prakrishta kriti of the Bhagavan. Like, it's a supreme creation of the Bhagavan. That's why it's called the nature. Which means there is a karya happening there. There is a kriya happening there. This kriti has a kriya, kridatu. Everything is krida, right? And the kriti is such that, the initial, launch was given by Bhagavan. After that, it's a self-propelling activity. All of us are adding to that prakriti. All of us are adding to that visarga. All of us are adding to that creation. That's why bhuta bhava udbhava karaha visargaha tat karma. When asked the question, what is karma? Bhuta bhava udbhava kara visarga is karma. The visarga, the creation, the special creation that keeps bringing out the different expressions, manifestations of the bhuta rashi, of the bhuta gana itself is karma. That was the definition we saw in the 8th chapter. So it's all adding to the prakriti, this ayudha. So in this prakriti, there is a various yajna karya happening, various perceivings happening, various divinities, divine forms coming out, various ornamentations that are coming out, that Bhagavan is wearing every vibhuti rupa. Bhagavan at the end of the day wears, like Prahlada avatara, he wore it on him. The Vajra Ayudha, he wore it on him. All the vibhuti rupa are all in him. Vishtabhyahamidam kritsnam, by holding them all together, ekam shena, by just one small fraction of me, sthitaha jagat sthitaha, this entire universe is standing. So he is holding them all. He is holding the yajnas, he is holding all the perceivings, he is holding all the vibhuti, he wears them. That itself is the abharana. And through that, aneka udyata ayudham also darshayamasa, the various instruments that keep furthering this prakriti, the activity called prakriti, is also he is showing. So we have to so when Bhagavan said pashya sacharacharam, there are many activities that are happening, but in all of that, the Bhagavan is samadhi. He is basically achara. Like, brahma karma samadhina is one thing that we hear in the 4th chapter. This all various brahma karma that is happening, brahma nir brahma, brahmarpanam, brahma havihi, brahmagno, brahmanahutam, all the various things that we think are the offering to the Brahma. But for Brahma, all of this various chaotic, entropic kind of a world is a samadhi state. He is absolutely calm in all of that. So aneka divya udyata ayudham darshayamasa, abharanam darshayamasa, adbhuta darshanam darshayamasa, vaktra nayanam darshayamasa. Now, the reason why I am going slow in terms of looking at all of these words is, we should as much as possible, try and avoid glossing over the translations. Each and every word we have to do the dharana, internalization as slowly, as many times as possible, because that is where the real swada of the Bhagavad Gita comes. Nonetheless, we will quickly now see the Aurobindo interpretation. It is that of the infinite Godhead, because the last sloka stopped at, he showed, right? showed the form, the Aishwarya Rupa, which is comprising of that infinite Godhead who was with innumerable mouths. Now, Aneka is innumerable. Very beautiful interpretation, right? Aneka is Ananta, Aneka is Bahu, Aneka is Sahasra, Aneka is Purna. These are the different words we hear in this chapter. Sahasra, Bahu, Aneka, Ananta. Interchangeably, we have to understand all of them is meaning the same. Innumerable. Innumerable mouths, which is the Yajna Kunda. Innumerable eyes, which is the Chakshu, the Indriya. Wonderful visions, like all the Adbhuta Divya Darshana, glorious with divine ornamentations. No, every Vibhuti Amsha itself is a divine ornamentation for the Bhagavan. He is wearing them all, of beauty with numerous divine uplifted weapons. Uplifted weapons, it's the Satkarana, weaponry. For a Brahmana has a different weapons, Shudra has different weapons, Kshatriya has different weapons, Vaishya has different weapons. All of this weaponry, which will further the advancement of the society. He is holding them all, uplifted them. That's the kind of an interpretation we can look at. And again, right, this is I gave a disclaimer at the beginning. Leshataha. The only thing we can do in terms of doing Artha Chintana of Bhagavad Gita is Leshataha, only little bit. So if anybody has further points to add, please to come up on stage. We would love to have you. Okay, with that we move on to the next shloka, shloka number 11. Harihi Om. दिव्यमाल्याम्बरधरं दिव्यगन्धानुलेपनं सर्वाश्चर्यमयं देवम् अनन्तं विश्वतोमुखम्. The Padacheda reads like this: Divyamalya Ambaradharam Divya Gandha Anulepanam Sarva Ascharyamayam Devam Anantam Vishwatomukham. Right? The Anvaya, the prose order, right? We unjumble these words. Divyamalya Ambaradharam, we have to imply Darshayamasa because that's the activity. Divyamalya Ambaradharam Darshayamasa. Divya Gandha Anulepanam Darshayamasa. Parthaya Darshayamasa. Sarva Ascharyamayam Darshayamasa. Vishwatomukham Anantam Devam Darshayamasa. Arjunaya, Parthaya. Who? That Mahayogeshwaraha Harihi. What does that mean? We click on the dictionary. Divyamalya Ambaradharam. Divyamala, right? Malya is the divine heavenly raiment of deity. Or Divyamalya, this is the heavenly raiment, is the Ambaradhara. Robed in heavenly raiment. We call him Shubhra Vastranvita, right? Shukla Ambaradharam, we call him. Shukla Ambaradharam Vishnum. When we Shukla Ambaradharam Vishnum Shashivaranam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyaye. So when we do that, Vishnu's it's called the Gajendra Stuti, right? After Gajendra was given the liberation, when he went up the heaven, this is the first thing that he uttered. Oh Vishnu, Shukla Ambaradhara Vishnu. So he is the Ambaradhara. He is the entire Shukla Ambara itself is the drape, the robe that he is draping. He is draping this all. Beautiful picturization, right? So robed in the heavenly raiment of the deity, which is the Ambaradhara, lovely with the garlands of divine flowers, Divya Malya. No, we call him Sragvi, right? The Vishnu Sahasranama, Vanamali we call him. Everything is a mala for him. He wears that mala. The mala, what is this mala? Mala is basically Sutre Manigana Iva, he says. Everything in the universe is basically, made into a nice garland that he is wearing. This is something that he spoke in the 7th chapter. So he's wearing it all. This Ambara Dhara, the Divya Malya is basically nothing but he is draping the entire sky as his cloth, and all the ornamentation, Divya, Divya, Aneka Divya Abharanam is what we heard, right? That itself is he's wearing as a mala. Divya Malya, Ambaradharam, wearing the divine mala, draping the entire sky as his cloth. Divya Gandha Anulepanam, right? Divya Gandha, the divine fragrance, Anulepanam, that he is, smeared on his body. Now, see, Gandha, again, we spoke about the same thing, right? Shabdah ke paurusham nrishu, punyo gandha prithivyam cha. We saw that, right? Seventh chapter. He is the Punya Gandha. No, the Punya Gandha is his, para prakriti. He was explaining that, right? The Vijnana, the various elements of the Bhagavan, Punya Gandha. But we also discussed one thing that at that time, that Gandha is a Upalakshana. All the other Tanmatras, all the other experiences, when it is Punya, when it is very, very beautiful, that is the Bhagavad Tattva. Right? So he is here, he is saying Divya Gandha, but it's not just the Divya Gandha, Divya Rasa, because after Gandha, there is Rasa, Divya, Rupa, Divya Sparsha, Divya Shabda, all five experiences, Gandha, Rasa, Rupa, Sparsha, Shabda. These are the various experiences, right? The smell, the taste, the sight, the sound, and the touch. These are the only five experiences we can have, the physical experiences. The divine such experiences, he has anulepanam, darshayamasa, the way he has smeared them all on him. He's showing that, right? All the experiences, tanmatras, he is also showing. Sarva Ascharyamayam, no, in whom all the wonders of existences, this is all divinity, Ascharya. Bahuchitra Jagat, Bahuda Karana, like, the entire Jagat itself, when we look at it, is Bahu Vichitra it is Ascharya Kara, Ascharya Chikita Jagat, right? Vishwato Mukham, Bahudha Vishwato Mukham. This is something that Krishna spoke earlier. In the ninth chapter, he uses this phrase, Ekatvena, he is one, but Prithatvena, in his varied forms, Bahudha Vishwato Mukham. That he was about to explain about himself in the ninth chapter. Ekatvena, Prithatvena, Bahudha, the varied Vishwato Mukham. That now we can think about the Bhagavan, though he is one, Ekatvena, the varied forms, Prithatvena, Bahudha, in various other things, Vishwato Mukham, in all different corners of this Vishwa. Wherever we step in the Vishwa, that point is Brahma's Mukha. He is the Vishwato Mukha. Mukha is basically the field of the Yajna. That's what we saw earlier also, right? So basically, the way Sanjaya is explaining all of this, right? Krishna is showing Arjuna his divine form, where Aneka Vaktra, Aneka Nayana, Aneka Divyabharana, Aneka Udyata, Ayudha, all of this Divya Malya, Ambaradhara, Divya Gandha, Anulepana, all the experiences, all the divine sense objects, whatever is a sense object, he is also showing that in its nice form. All Ascharya Jagat, Ascharya Vishwa, and Vishwato Mukha, Ananta Vishwato Mukha, Anantam, infinite, Tam Devam, that Devam, Darshayamasa. He showed that divine Deva Rupa to Arjuna, right? Because beyond a point in time, I think, see, this is best Krishna Dvaipayana, Maharshi Vyasa has documented in terms of explaining, helping us do the Artha Chintana. But we shouldn't count these as an end in themselves. We have to, the more we do internalization, we will only see that, these words are eventually failing to communicate the entire picture, because that's the best the words can do, right? So let's see the Anvaya. That's why the repeat Artha Chintana of these shlokas will tend to give us more deeper and deeper, peek into what is coming through. Okay, let's quickly see what interpretation says. It is that infinite Godhead, I think it's continuing from the previous shloka, who was glorious with divine ornaments of beauty, robed in heavenly raiment of deity, lovely with garlands of divine flowers, fragrant with divine perfumes, and in whom are all the wonders of existence, who multiplies unendingly all the many marvelous revelations of his being, and who is the face everywhere, or who faces everywhere. The Vishwatomukam can be the face in everything, or the one who faces everything. No, beautiful interpretation, right? It can be both. It is both. Rather, it can be both. It is both, because that's how endless, the Bhagavad Tattva is. Bhagavan is, when we say Brahma, Brahma is that Brihat, that magnanimous thing, that biggest thing, that that all-encompassing divinity and more. Like, Sabhumim Vishwato Avritva Atyatishad Dashangulam. Like, he's after encapsulating the entire universe, he is 10 inches beyond. The 10 inches is beyond recognition, right? We can't really know what the 10 inches. You know, Padaha Asya Vishwabhutani, his only one part is the entire Vishwa, entire universe. Tripadaha, three parts of his are Amrita Divi, his divinity. We can't really describe it. So this is what we hear in the Purusha Sukta, right? So this is the close that Sanjaya is able to explain to Dhritarashtra what kind of a Vishwarupa, what kind of an Aishwarya Rupa that Bhagavan is showing Arjuna. Now again, in all of these things, we will come back to it a little later also. One thing is that, as much as it's a physical display of the Vishwarupa, the Aishwarya Rupa, there is also the allegorical meaning behind all of this. There is also tattva behind all of this, and we will do the chintana later. In the words of Arjuna, we will try to do the chintana also. Okay, so with that we move on to the next shloka number 12. Harihi Om. Divi Surya Sahasrasya Bhavedyugapaduthita Yadi Bha Sadrishi Satsya Bhasastasya Mahatmanah. The Padacheda says, Divi Surya Sahasrasya Bhavet Yugapat Uthita Yadi Bhaha Sadrishi Sa Syat Bhasaha Tasya Mahatmanaha. These are the different words in the shloka, but they mean, very beautifully when we put them into a proper prose order. The prose order is given in the Anvaya. Anvaya reads like this. यदि दिवि सूर्य सहस्रस्य भाः युगपत् उत्थिता स्यात् सा तस्य महात्मनः भासः सदृशी भवेत्. Sounds like a sentence, but we will see what it means. Yadi, if. Yadi is if. Divi Surya Sahasrasya, of the divine 1,000 Suryas, not just Surya, Sahasra Suryasya, Surya Sahasrasya. If that divinity of 1,000 Suryas and the Bha of that 1,000 Surya, Bha is the light. If the light of those 1,000 divine Suryas, Yugapat at once, Uttita Syat, had risen at once. He's saying, if the light of 1,000 heavenly suns were to come out at once, right, that's what he's trying to say. Satasya Mahatmanaha Bhasaha. That was the light coming of that Mahatman. Mahatman is that Bhagavan, Yogeshwaraha Harihi. That was the light of that Mahatman. Sadrishis Bhavet. Like that be it. So he's giving an upama, he's giving an example to describe to Dhritarashtra. Now, what kind of an imagery came in front of Arjuna? The way after the Divya Abharana, Divya Aneka Udyata Ayudha, all of that was being told, right? Aneka Vaktra, Aneka Nayana, all of that. Aneka Divya Abharana. The way he appeared in front of Arjuna, he Rajan, who Dhritarashtra, if 1,000 heavenly suns light were to come out at once, that was the radiance from this Mahatman. So he is explaining. And again, because Bhagavan is Upama, we can't say that, 1,000 will equal to Bhagavan. 1,000, basically, Sahasra is infinite. Sahasra, Shata, Dasha. These are the Sanketa of Purnatva. And Purna can also mean infinite. Like when we say Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purna is basically infinite. Right? That's why. So when you add infinity to infinity, what remains is infinity. When you take infinity from infinity, also what remains is infinity. That's why the shloka makes sense. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyati. When you remove Purna from Purna, what remains is Purna. Can only happen when we believe, when we understand that Purna to be infinite. Such a beautiful way, right? We never called infinity to be something that's unending open. It's Purna. It's closed. Closed where only within the Bhagavan. Purnatvat Parama. When we say Parama, Paramatma, right? Paramatma happens only because of that Purnatva. So this Sahasra is also that Purna. It's infinity. because it's Anupama. Bhagavan cannot be explained. This is the close we can come to. Right? Sahasra, Aneka, Ananta. Right? These are the Bahu, many, innumerable, numerous. Okay, that's basically what Sanjay is telling Dhritarashtra about the imagery that came in front of Arjuna. Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Such is the light of this Mahatma, the body of this God, as if 1,000 suns, heavenly suns, had risen at once in the heaven. Okay, heavenly suns or 1,000 suns had risen one at once in the heaven. Okay, beautiful interpretation. Let's move on to the next shloka. Harihi Om, shloka number 13. तत्रैकस्थं जगत्कृत्स्नं प्रविभक्तमनेकधा अपश्यद्देवदेवस्य शरीरे पाण्डवा तत्रैकस्थं जगत्कृत्स्नं प्रविभक्तमनेकधा अपश्यद्देवदेवस्य शरीरे पाण्डवस्तदा. What does the Padacheda tell us? Scroll down a little bit in the page. Tatra ekastham jagat kritsnam pravibhaktam anekadha apashyat deva devasya sharire pandavah tada. So these are some of the sandhis also, right, in the shloka. Pandavah tada, pandavas tada. Tatra ekastham, tatraikastham. Like eka, eka becomes ekaika, right? Similarly, tatra eka, tatraika. Right? Apashyat deva, apashyat deva. Some of the few sandhis there. When we put them into a proper sentence, these broken padacheda words into a proper sentence, we get the anvaya, right? Tada pandavaha tatra deva devasya sharire anekadha pravibhaktam kritsnam jagat ekastham apashyat. What does that mean? Tada, thereafter, then Pandava, that Pandava, Arjuna. See, Pandava is Arjuna, of course, he's son of Pandu. But Pandava as a word comes from Panda. Pandat abhavat Pandava, Pandu. Panda means Buddhi, right? The Jnana, right? Buddhi Shakti. That's why we have names like Panda. When you go to Jagannath Puri temple, all the priests there are called Panda. You go up north a little bit towards Bihar and all, it's Pandey, right? And all across the country, we see the word Pandita. All of these words are rooted in the word Panda. Panda means Buddhi, right? So Sanjaya calling Arjuna Pandava here has that significance. Now the Buddhi Shakti. Because see, there is a phrase that Krishna uses in 6th chapter. This Niruddha Sthiti, the Samadhi Sthiti, it is Buddhi Grahyam, but Atindriyam. For the lowly Indriya, for the normal physical Indriya, it is beyond that. The divinity is beyond this Indriya, but it is Buddhi Grahya. It can be understood by the Buddhi. Right? So we need the Buddhi. In fact, in the Uddhava Gita also he says, Grihyamanir, Gunair Lingair, Agrahyamanumanaha, he says. The way we have to understand the Ishvara Tattva through the Grihyamana Guna Linga. For the perceivable gunas and the lingas, we have to anumanataha. Through inference, we have to understand the agrahya, the one who is, unthinkable, avyakta, achintya, right? The Bhagavan, the divinity is achintya. The only way we can do the understanding of the achintya is by grasping the chintya, the grahyamana, guna, linga. There are different things that we can perceive in this world, right? Through them, through the inference, we have to understand him. Right? For that, we need the Buddhi Shakti. Buddhi is the one that does it's the instrument which does the discriminatory thing, right? So Buddhi is needed. So Pandava is such a beautiful expression now that Sanjaya is using for Arjuna. The Buddhi has to come now, which means for him, if he has to see the Vishwarupa, it's not possible without the proper Panda Shakti, the Buddhi Shakti. That's why he's the Pandava now. Tada Pandavaha, then that Arjuna, then that Pandava, Tatra Devasya, there of that Deva Devasya, not just Deva, Devasya, Deva Devasya, the Deva of the Deva, God of gods, Tasya Sharire, in his body, Anekada prabhigavaktam, the multitudinously divided. Kritsnam Jagat, the entire world, the entire world, which is multitudinously divided. That's what he spoke in the ninth chapter, right? No, ekatvena, prithatvena. This entire Jagat is one, that's Bhagavan. But now he saw the various plural, multidimensional, pravibhakta. Vibhakta is vibhajana, right? Divided. Pravibhaktam Kritsnam Jagat ekasthamam apashyat. Yet unified in that body, he saw. He saw the ekatva and the pritaktva. That's what he's telling. That's what Krishna was trying to explain in the ninth chapter. But now Sanjay is confirming to Dhritarashtra that Arjuna ended up seeing that pritaktva and the ekatva together he saw. That's the way he showed. And that's the way we have to see. We have to see the samabhava, the entire. I mean, if we have to aspire to reach higher in our yoga sadhana, right? We have to aspire to see that ekatva, and we have to also admire the different things that comes. Shuni chaiva shvapakecha, we have to see the shuni also, the dog also. Shvapakas, we have to see the chandara also. We have to see the pandita also. We have to see everyone, but we have to see the samabhava in everything, that bhagavat tattva in everything. We can't necessarily treat them all the same, but we have to have the bhagavat bhava, the samabhava towards everyone. The bhagavat bhava is basically the mudita bhava, the upeksha bhava, the karunya bhava, the maitra bhava, the friendly bhava. That bhagavad bhava has to be the same towards all. So that is what we have to aspire to be. So Arjuna now has achieved it, is what Sanjay is telling. Tada Pandavaha, then that Pandava, Tatra Devadevasya Sharire, in that Devadeva's Sharira, in that Devanka Deva Sharira, Anekada Prabhibhaktam Kritnam Jagat, the multitudinously divided entire world, Ekastham Apashya, he saw it in a unified way. What does the Aurobindo interpretation say? You go back. The whole world's multitudinously divided and yet unified as visible to Arjuna in the body of the God of Gods. Very simplistically put, this translation. तब अर्जुन ने समस्त देवों के प्रभु परम देव के उस शरीर में संपूर्ण विश्व को अनेक प्रकार से विभक्त और फिर भी एकीभूत देखा, एक ही स्थान में स्थित देखा. It's all stayed in the same place. Okay, this is beyond imagination, right? So this is where we have to do the constant dharana, upadharana of these thoughts and internalize how exactly would have happened. We can't just gloss over the translations, right? Okay, with that we move on to shloka number 14. I think this is the last shloka for Sanjaya for some time. After this, we see Arjuna. And that is the beauty. When Arjuna starts describing the Vishwarupa, I think that's very beautiful. The entire Bhagavad-Gita, that perhaps is the best expression of bhakti. If we have to praise the Lord, praise the Bhagavan, I think Arjuna has given us the way. Right? We'll see that next, but before that, we'll see the last word from Sanjaya before we see Arjuna's expression of Vishwarupa. Harihi Om. ततः सविस्मयाविष्टः हृष्टरोमा धनञ्जयः प्रणम्य शिरसा देवं कृताञ्जलिरभाषत. ततः सविस्मयाविष्टो हृष्टरोमा धनञ्जयः प्रणम्य शिरसा देवं कृताञ्जलिरभाषत. What does the padacheda give us? Tatah saha vismaya avishtaha hrishtharoma dhananjayah pranamya shirasa devam krita anjalihi abhashata. Right? We put them into a proper prose order. Anvaya. Tataha saha saha dhananjayah vismaya avishtaha hrishtharoma tat dhananjayah devam shirasa pranamya kritanjalihi abhashata. What does that mean? We click on dictionary. Tataha, then, thereafter. Saha Dhananjaya, that Dhananjaya, that Arjuna. Vismaya avishtaha Dhananjaya, that Dhananjaya who is Vismaya avishta, who is overcome with marvel. Krishtaromacha, he's also Krishtaroma. Krishtaroma is happy Roma, happy body hair, excited. When we get excited is where our body hair stands right. right? It happens when we have the fear also, when we have the anxiety also. That's what in the Vishada, when describing the Vishada of Arjuna, Arjuna said, no, what is the line? Romam cha. What is the line, Sudhaji? Uh, सीदन्ति मम गात्राणि मुखं च परिशुष्यति वेपतुश्च शरीरे मे रोमहर्षश्च जायते. Romaharsha, Krishta Roma, Romaharsha. While Harsha is a very happy expression, Romaharsha, the Roma, the the body hair can can stand right, upright when in joy also, when you get excited also, when you are tensed also. So it can, so some translations of this shloka can also mean that Arjun Sanjay is telling Dhritarashtra that he's also getting overfilled with fear also, anxiety also. That's also some translations say, but I think this is right. Overcome with joy, Krishna Roma. I think this is more appropriate. We'll stick to that. This is a beautiful interpretation from Aurobindo. Krishna Roma, overcome with joy, right? Because basically, literally, basically the Roma, the body hair, is standing upright. Krishna Roma, Dhananjaya, that Dhananjaya, who is Vismaya Avishtaha. Vismaya is that marvel, Avishtaha, overcome, completely enveloped in. And Krishna Roma, who is also excited. Tam Devam, to that Deva, Shirasa Pranamya, by bowing down with his head. Now, Shirasa can also be counted as a Upalakshana, right? Because Manasa, Vacha, Sirasa, Janubhyam, Panibhyam, Padav, that Ashtanga Pranama, when we say Ashtanga Namaskara, Shirasa is just one Urasa, Shirasa, Janubhyam, the knee, the leg, the hand, the chest, the Manasa, Vacha, the Ashtanga Pranama. We can say, when we say Shirasa, Shirasa can be counted as a Upalakshana and say, bowed down completely. He did the Ashtanga Pranama to the Bhagavan. And Krita Anjalihi, Krita Anjalihi Shirasa, then basically there is very little left for the Ashtanga Pranama. Krita Anjalihi, with the folded hands, with the clasped hands, Abhashata, he spoke. Now Arjuna speaks, right? Completely dumbstruck, completely struck in the marvel of that divine beauty, completely filled with excitement, Hrishta Roma, that can be part joy, part tense. Like Hrishta Roma can happen in both. In the same Bhagavad-Gita earlier, Roma Harshashcha Jayate from Arjuna's words was used for describing the anxiety. Right? Now he is excited. Right? Can be both. So again, we can keep these thoughts because for constant upadharana, we have to keep these thoughts. Right? We will see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Arjuna sees him, the Bhagavan, Tam Devam, and overcome with marvel, Vismaya Avishtaha, and joy. Okay, in this interpretation, they say joy and fear. Rishta Roma is joy and fear. Can be fear also, right? Can be that anxiety also. Hrishta Roma is joy and fear. Beautiful, right? It's a mixed bag. He bows down, Kritanjali, okay, pranamya, bows down and adores with words of awe, like Kritanjali, with clasped hands and the tremendous vision. Okay, he spoke the words of the tremendous vision, abhashata. He adores the words of awe, the tremendous vision. He spoke these abhashata. He spoke these things. I think this is not literal interpretation. There is a little bit of opinion, but beautiful opinion. All of these Bhagavatas, right? Aurobindo, Mukundananda, right from Shankaracharya, or even before Shankaracharya, I think one of the earliest commentaries on Gita is available at least, is Abhinavagupta, right? So all the Bhagavatas, their expressions are another level altogether. But we will try to see the literal meaning and then we will then try to sneak into their bhava, bhakti bhava. That will be a beautiful experience. Okay. So now we are about to hear Arjuna. That's the next shloka. Needless to say, if anybody has to add something to what we are trying to do, because we are only trying to do leshataha, only a part, little bit, reading from the limited resources around us. Okay, now we go to shloka number 15 on the right top corner of the web page. You can click on next. Right? Go to shloka number 15. Arjuna Uvacha Pashyami Devanstava Deva Dehe सर्वांस्तथा भूतविशेषसङ्घान् ब्रह्माणमीशं कमलासनस्थं ऋषींश्च सर्वानुरगांश्च दिव्यान् पश्यामि देवांस्तव देवदेहे सर्वान् तथा भूतविशेषसङ्घान् ब्रह्माणमीशं कमलासनस्थं ऋषींश्च सर्वानुरगांश्च दिव्यान्. The Padacheda is very simple. Pashyami Deva, Devan, Pashyami Devan, Devan Tava become Devans Tava. Pashyami Devan, Tava Deva Dehe, Sarvan Tatha Bhuta Vishesha Sanghan, Brahmanam Isham, Kamala Asanastham, Rishin Cha Sarvan, Uragan Cha Divyan. So these are the ones where there is a new sound gets added. Rishin Cha, Rishincha, Uragan Cha, Uragancha, Devantava, Devanstava. So these are the Sakara Agama, Shakara Agama, Agama Sandhi. Sandhi, the compounding, there are three types. Agama, Adesha, Lopa. An existing sound disappears, Lopa. An existing sound modifies, Adesha. Or a non-existing sound from out of the boundary comes in, Agama. So these are all Agama Sandhis. Right? So we put these words into a Anvaya. So Arjuna Uvacha, Hey Deva, Tava Dehe, Sarvan Devan, no, Pashyami, we have to count Pashyami as a word. Sarvan Devan Pashyami, Tatha Bhuta Vishesha Sanghan Pashyami, Kamala Asanastham Isham Brahmanam Cha Pashyami, Sarvan Rushin Pashyami, Divyan Uragan Cha Pashyami. So Pashyami can be added 10 different places. But usually the shlokas, the way they are composed, there is a rule, right? Punarukti dosha. We can't have the same word come again and again and again without a different interpretation, without a different meaning. That's why if a word comes again in any shloka, we have to hunt for another alternative meaning. We can't, like for example, there is a shloka, Palaya, Chutapalaya, Jutapalaya, Kamalalaya. So why do we use the same word Palaya, Palaya, Palaya? Mam Paripalaya, yes, of course, protect me. But from Adibhautika problems, protect me, Palaya. From Adidaivika issues, Mam Paripalaya, Mam Palaya. From Adhyatmika. So then we are compelled to think at three different interpretations of the same word, Palaya. So that's another side thought. So wherever there are, words, the words can be used n number of times also, right? Because to avoid Punarukti dosha, a word that may have to be used multiple times, the composers will use it only once. Those are the rules of composition. But nonetheless, we will see the meaning of it. What does that mean? Arjuna uvacha. Arjuna spoke. We click on dictionary, right? Hey Deva, O Deva, O God. Tava dehe, in your body, in thy body. Sarvan Devan Pashyami. I said Pashyami. Pashyami is I saw, I see. Sarvan Devan Pashyami, I see all the gods. Tatha, thereafter, Bhuta Vishesha Sanghan Pashyami, I see different companies of beings. Now, Bhuta is being, Vishesha is special, Sanghan is group. Right? Bhuta Vishesha Sanghan. See, Vishesha also has Shesha and V. We, I think, in Bhagavad Gita so far, we have seen quite a few examples in what all different ways the prefix V can play out. V can be Vishesha, V is Vishishta, V is Vikrishta, V is Viparita, V is Vividhata. No, V can be multiple different ways, right? So Shesha, Shesha, Sheshi, right? But there is a concept called the Shesha, Sheshi. Sheshi is the Bhagavan. Shesha is us all, Vishesha. The supreme Shesha is the Adishesha, right? He is the one who's left over. Now, Vishesha Sanghan, Bhuta Vishesha Sanghan, he uses the word Uraga, the special manifestations, Vishesha. That's why it becomes a special divine forms. And the pack of them, a group of them, like Bhuta Vishesha Sanghan. different companies of special beings. I think we have to put the word special beings, because Uraga is something that we hear later. Uraga is the snake. That serpent is that Mahashesha. That Shesha, the divine Shesha, and the Mahashesha is that Ananta Shesha, right? Ananta Shayana, the one who is providing the body for the Bhagavan to lie down, which means he's that Ananta Shesha, the Shesha, that Naga, is also spread across the universe, right? So, Vishesha Sanghan Pashyami. Kamala Asanastham. Who is the Kamala Asanastha? Kamala is the lotus, Asana is the seat. Tatra Sthitaha is Kamala Asanastha, right? Seated in the lotus. Who is seated in the lotus? Brahma, Brahma Kamala, right? Brahma, that Kamala is stemming from the Nabhi of the Bhagavan. And the one seated in that Kamala is the Brahma. Kamalasanastham Isham, that Lord who is Kamalasanastha, that Brahmanam, that Brahma who is seated on the Kamala, I see him. But when we see some Purana, the Isha can also be Ishvara. I see the Kamalasanastha Brahma, Pashyami, and with him there is also Ishvara, his son, no Rudradeva. No, Rudradeva, in the Bhagavata, we hear that word Nila Lohita, right? Who was born by the joining together of the, Bhashpa, the teardrop from the left eye and the right eye. So that is where we see the Nila and the Lohita, the blue and the red, which are basically signifying the Tamas and the Rajas gunas, right? That's why he is a Nila Lohita. So he is son of Brahma. Rudradeva is the son of Brahma. So Isham can also be that Ishvara, that Shiva, that Rudradeva. So I see Rudradeva, I see Brahma who is Kamalasanastha. Sarvan Rishin Chapashyami, I see all the rishis also. Divyan Uragan Chapashyami, I see the divine serpents also, the Nagas. Together, it's all together at the Ananta Shesha, right? Ananta Shayana. Right? Basically, now he is able to see the different tattvas. Bhagavan is one, but within that Bhagavan there are multiple different things also. Right? Aham kraturaham yajnah pitahamasya jagato mata dhata pitamaha. Pitamaha is typically Brahma. I think some of us who did the Parayana of the Balakanda, in the second chapter, when Brahma is explaining the story of Rama back to Valmiki again, what he heard from Narada in the chapter 1, Brahma also explains that. And Brahma there is referred to as Pitamaha. And now he's telling, I see that in you. I see that Pitamaha in you. I see that Brahmanam, Kamalasanastam Brahmanam in you. I see the Ishvara in you. Now, Arjuna, see, the beauty of these shlokas is that whatever was explained to Arjuna by Bhagavan, now he is reciprocating with his own live direct experience. Right? Sarvan Devan Pashyami, Bhuta Vishesha Sanghan Pashyami, Kamalasanastham Brahmam Pashyami, along with him, Isham Chapashyami. Sarvan Rishin cha pashyami, Divyan Uragan cha pashyami. Right? Let's quickly see what uh, Aurobindo interpretation says. Arjuna said, I see all the gods in your body, O Deva, and the different companies of special beings, Vishesha Sanghan Pashyami. Right? Brahma, the creating Lord, seated in the lotus, Tam Pashyami, Brahmanam Pashyami, Kamalasanastam Brahmanam Pashyami, Isham Pashyami, Rishim Pashyami, and I also see the rishis and the race of divine serpents, Divyan, Uragan Chapashyami. See, one thing that we need to bear in mind is all three of them are consistent. Sanjaya is consistent to what Krishna said, to what Arjuna said. We are seeing a unison of sorts. No, Pashya, no, me partha rupani shatashah ata sahasrashah pashya, he says. No, nana vidhani divyani, nana varna akritini cha, pashya adityan, rudran, vasun, ashvino, marutaha. That's what he said. See all the Devaganas in me. And Arjuna reciprocates. I see all the Devaganas in you. I see all the Vishesha Gana Sanghan, Vishesha Bhuta Sanghan in you. I see all the Rishin in you. I see all the Divya Uragan in you. Right? So this is basically Arjuna is confirming to what was explained by Krishna, what was narrated by Sanjaya, to what he is directly seeing. But in all of these things, we have to understand the tattva. Rishis are tattva. Brahma is the creating Lord. That's why beautifully in the Aurobind interpretation, creating Lord. No, he is the one who is constantly doing the creation. And that word is very important. Right? Because creation is not a one-time activity. We are in that creation, live and direct in that creation. We are all experiencing that creation. Every moment of our life, there is something being created. And who creates? That Brahma alone, right? There are new words being created, some new thoughts being set to flow. All of this is part of that. That's why we call it Visarga. It's the Vishishta Sarga. It's not just Sarga. Sarga is creation. Visarga is the Vishishta Sarga, Vishesha Sarga. That's constantly happening. If you were to think that, creation happened eons ago, I mean, it started eons ago, right? It continues to happen now, right? Kalpas after kalpa, when there is a new sarga happens, we have to count them to be part of the creation, right? Part of that continuous creation, right? So that's what Arjuna is alluding to. Like, I see all of them, right? The the Brahma, the one who is constantly doing the creating Lord, Brahmanam Pashyami. Rishims are the ones who always uphold the richa, the truth, right? Divyan Uragan cha Pashyami. Uragas, the snakes, are the ones who are the Vatashanas. They survive on the air. And also Sarpati, the Bujagati, the Jagati, like, they are the Jagat. They are the Jagati. Jagat also, as a word, has Gama, like, Jagama, like, there is movement happening in Jagat. In fact, in the Ishavasya Upanishad, the first line, Ishavasyamidam, Sarvam, Yatkinchit Jagatyam Jagat. Jagati, basically, there is a movement happening, and also Jagat means the world. The world is not stationary, it's constantly moving, constantly changing. And Uraga is the Jagati. Sarpa is Bhujagati, Bhujanga. When we say Bhujanga is a Sarpa, right? Bhujaga is because he's Bhujagati. No, in the Bhu, he is Jagati. He is constantly moving around. So we have to do some chintana on the tattva behind all of them also. I think we have done some chintana on them, and we will try to do little by little, as and when we encounter some of these words, right? And he is seeing all of this in the Bhagavan. Okay, with that, we move on to the next shloka. Perhaps one shloka before we uh, conclude for today and keep it open for any Q&A. Harihi Om. The shloka reads like this, shloka number 16. Aneka bahu daravaktra netram pashyami tvam sarvato nantarupam nantam na madhyam na punastavadim pashyami vishveshwara vishwarupa. Aneka bahu daravaktra netram pashyami tvam sarvato nantarupam nantam na madhyam na punastavadim pashyami vishveshwara vishwarupa. What does the Padacheda give us when we scroll down a little bit on the page? Aneka bahu udara vaktra netram pashyami tvam sarvataha anantarupam na antam na madhyam na punaha tava adim pashyami vishveshwara vishwarupa. So he is calling him in multiple different sambodhana. Right? In the Anvaya, we see that. Hey Vishwarupa Vishweshwara. Hey Vishweshwara. Hey Vishwarupa. Now, this is where we are hearing the word Vishwarupa for the first time. The chapter is called Vishwarupa Darshana, but first time we are hearing it from Arjuna now. Vishwarupa, Hey Vishweshwara. Aneka Bahu Udara Vaktra Netram Pashyami. Sarvatah Anantarupam Tvam Pashyami. तव न अंतं पश्यामि न मध्यम पश्यामि न पुनः तव आदिम पश्यामि हे विश्वेश्वर हे विश्वरूप. Right? That's the Anvaya. What does that mean? We click on dictionary. Hey Vishweshwara, Vishwasya Ishwara, Lord of the universe. Hey Vishwarupa, form universal, Vishwasya Rupa. He is the universal form and he is the Lord of the universe. Aneka bahu udara vaktra netram pashyami. Many bahu, shoulders, udara, stomach, vaktra, face, netram, eyes, pashyami. Right? Bahu is shoulder, udara is the stomach, vaktra is the face, netra is the eyes. Aneka, many, innumerous, new, numberless. Right? Aneka, ananta, sahasra, bahu. These are the different words we hear. And this is something that uh, Sanjaya was explaining earlier, right? Aneka bahudara vaktra netram, Aneka vaktra nayanam, Aneka adbhuta darshanam, Aneka divyabharanam, Divyaneka, Divya Aneka udyata ayudham. That's exactly what Sanjaya was explaining earlier. Now Arjuna is confirming through his own words. Hey Vishwarupa, hey Vishweshwara, Aneka bahu udara vaktra netram pashyami. I see many shoulders. Shoulders are the ones that support. Shoulder as an idiomatic expression, even in English we use it for no, shouldering responsibility is basically support. Somebody has to support. The ultimate support in entire universe, the one who's doing the dharakatva of the entire universe, is the Mahabahu Parameshwara, right? That's why he is the Ananta Bahu, Aneka Bahu. The only way he can protect, he can uplift everything, is by the exercising of that Aneka Bahu Tattva. He is the Aneka Bahu. He's not just holding it all, he's also digesting it all. He is the Udara. In the 15th chapter we saw that, right? Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashrita. That Vaishvanara, Vaishvadeva, is basically the Jataragni, the Udaragni, right? He's the and Udaragni is very, very symbolic, right? Literally, for every food offering that we offer to the stomach, it has to digest. But that udara is also the significance of the, symbolically it represents the Homakunda for the entire universe. Yajno vai Vishnu. If this entire universe itself is a yajna, that Bhagavan himself is a yajna, that udara is the kunda, Homakunda, where we keep offering different oblations and he keeps digesting them. That havis patra is that udara, and that feeds the energy for this life. At the end of the day, udara provides energy for our sustenance, right? For our day-to-day activities, the energy comes from the digestive activity of the stomach. And for the universe also, for this universal yajna also, there is a Homakunda. That is the Aneka Udara. That is the numerous, innumerable, numberless, countless Udara. Vaktra, the face, where the field of activity. Vaktra is where it is all happening. Udara is where it is all getting digested. Digested also means it is pushing more energy back into more yajna karya, right? And netra, the perception, right? The sensory organs. Okay? So many multiple support system I see, many different, countless digestions I see, countless fields I see, countless sensory organs I see. Sarvataha, everywhere, from every side. Anantarupam, the infinite forms. Tvam pashyami, of you pashyami, of you that I see. But tava antam na pashyami, but I can't see the end of you. Tava madhyam na pashyami, I can't see the middle of you. Na punaha adim cha pashyami, I can't see I again can't see the beginning of it. Now, see, this is something that we have to understand very carefully. Physically, yes, I can't see. This is something for the entire creation itself. Bhagavanta has spoken in the 15th chapter. Narupamasyeha tathopalabhyate. You can't, there is no way you can see the full of it. Nanto na chadir na cha sampratishta. You can't see the beginning of it, you can't see the end of it, you can't see the foundation of it. When we so, you know, keenly keep striving to understand the big picture in its entirety, Krishna has given a very clear disclaimer. Narupamasyeha tatha upalabhyate. There is no way you can get the full grasp of this divine tattva of mind, this entire creation, this entire brihatva. There is no way you can see the entirety of it. Now Arjuna is alluding to the same. Tava antam na pashyami. I can't see the end of you. That's why you are ananta, na anta. Yasya. He is ananta. Tava madhyam na pashyami. I can't even see which is the center. See, in an infinitely spread universe, any given point is the center. So, which is the exact center, nobody knows. No, in my daughter's school, they teach the geocentricity concept because that is how the heliocentricity and some other centricity concepts evolved. The first thought was geocentricity. When we saw the world around us, we believed Earth was the center and the moons and the stars and the suns were evolving around us. So geocentricity, no matter how mithya it is, that is how the thought came. And also logically, for us, Earth is the center. For me, I am the center. The center of the universe is where I am, right? Because any point in an infinitely spread universe can be the center. But the actual madhya, nobody knows. Na madhyam na pashyami. Which is the real center of the. So there is a debate between geocentricity, heliocentricity. Both are wrong. The real center is somewhere else. We don't know. Nobody knows, or we don't know yet. I think that's a more proper, plausible expression. So Arjuna is telling, I can't see your end. You are Ananta, right? I can't see your end. I can't see your middle. Na punaha tava adim pashyami. I can't see again your adi. The punaha perhaps is indicative. Punaha is not counted in the English translation in this website. Punaha means again. And again, I can't see your beginning, or I can't see your beginning again. Because the creation is a constant activity. We spoke about this earlier, right? But we tend to believe that there is a srishti, sthiti, laya, and then there is a srishti, sthiti, laya, and then there is a srishti, sthiti, laya. We tend to think that this conundrum goes in that cyclic pattern. But what we fail to acknowledge a possibility is that this is a continuous. Where the sthiti is where srishti is happening, laya is also happening side by side. All three are parallel activities. Srishti, sthiti, laya are happening. Laya is happening, srishti is happening. It need not be one end of the world where everything comes to an end. No, there is something. Even when we think the world is ended, there is something. So the sthiti is continuous, srishti is continuous. That's why it's called the visarga, the vishishta sarga, right? For something to be born, something is dying. There is laya also happening. So, tavana punaha adim na pashyami. I think perhaps that gives us an indication of that. I can't make sense of this creation. I can't get the full picture of this entire creation. I can't see the full picture of this Brihatva, this Brahma, of this Anantarupa, of this Vishwarupa, O Vishweshwara. The way he is explaining Bhagavan, we can make sense in that way. I can see many things. I can see many bahu, udara, vaktra, netra, but I can't see the full picture. That's precisely what Krishna tells later in the 15th chapter. Na rupamasya iha tatha upalabhyate, na antaha na cha adihi na cha sampratishta. Ashwatham, this Ashwatha is what is described as the tree of life in that. Enam suvirudha moolam. Only thing you can do about this Ashwatha tree, about this tree of life, about the samsara sagara is asanga shastrena dridhena chitva. You can only keep yourself an asanga shastra, and with great deal of determination, with dhratva, chitva, keep going, keep working on this planet, keep working on this creation, do more action, do your karma, right? As a droplet of water, we have to flow, be in the flow. The water droplet cannot think, oh, there is a boulder coming, I will not be part of the flow. Oh, there is a nice tree, I will jump into the tree. No, it has to be in the flow. There is no way it can change the course of direction. One can jump off the stream and come to the blade of the grass. One can jump off and sit on the top of the boulder on the way. But these are part of the creation, not its own thinking. The drop of water does not have any such right. It has to be part of the flow, right? So, be part of the flow is what he says in the 15th chapter. because you can't make full sense of it. Now, before coming to the part where Arjuna can feel himself part of the flow, now he's explaining the true picture. I can't see the beginning, I can't see the end, I can't see the middle, I can't see the beginning again, I can't see the Adi again, I can't see the creation again, but I can see many Bahu, many Udara, many Vaktra, many Netra. I can see many support systems, many digestive systems, many fields of play, many perceptions, many sensory organs. No, well, I keep mixing the allegorical meaning constantly, but let's quickly see what Aurobindo interpretation says. I see numberless arms and bellies and eyes and faces. I see thy infinite forms on every side. But I see not thy end, nor thy middle, nor thy beginning. In bracket again, punaha, that word is missing. O Lord of the universe, O Vishweshwara, O form universal, O Vishwarupa. Right? I think we have to, again, needless to say, right? Again, constant reminder to ourselves. We have to keep doing the upadharana of this meeting. It's never final. We can't see these sessions, nor these translations, nor these websites as an end in themselves. These are just perhaps the launching pad, one more stepping stone in our continuous sadhana, no, in our continuous upadharana. Internalize these thoughts so that we can, at one point in time, aim to achieve the dhyana sthiti, dhyana yoga sthiti, which will perhaps help us achieve that samatva samadhi. Right? With that, we conclude for today's reading of the Pratipadartha. We continue from shloka number 17 from next Saturday. In the meanwhile, we have another 20 minutes. The word also. I might have spoken a lot, but it's only the facilitation job that I'm doing. This is a community exercise. Anybody is free to come up on stage and share your views. We would love to go back home with a little more than what we came here with, right? So please to come up on stage. Thanks, Hare Krishna ji, for coming, Shilpa Shri ji, for coming up on stage. Uh, Asking question is also sharing an opinion. Thanks so much for that, and also makes us think. Sometimes we might not have thought through certain angles. Thanks for asking certain questions, which will make us think in certain angles and helps us gain more clarity. So please to spread the word to those one or two people that we all know of, who are looking for a safe space like this where we can do an independent, bias-free Artha Chintana